So let's look at an example where some advance payment has been done and how TDS will be deducted. Suppose on 1st of July 2017, there is an advance which has been paid for work covered under section 194C and the total value of the contract is 1,20,000 during the financial year. You will understand the reasons why these numbers have been taken a little later, but assuming this be the case, there is an advance payment of 50,000. On 30th of September 2017, the invoice is received and credited in the books of accounts for 1,20,000. Now, at the time of making the advance payment, since the TDS has to be deducted at the time of payment, which is advance, or credit, whichever is earlier. Now, earlier of these two is 1st of July. So, on 1st of July, on the payment of 50,000, you are going to deduct TDS under section 194C. Let's say the applicable rate is 2%. You will withhold a tax of 1,000 on this date. Now, when you receive the invoice on 30th September for 1,20,000, right, out of this, the total TDS which should be due at the time of credit is 2% of 1,20,000 or 2,400. But this credit also includes an advance payment which has been made for 50,000, on which TDS has already been deducted, amounting to 1,000. So the TDS which will be deducted on this date at the time of credit will be 2,400 minus 1,000, 1,400. So you deduct TDS of 1,000 at the time of payment. The balance TDS on the entire thing, which is at the time of credit, is 1,400. That's how you say that it has to be deducted at the time of credit or payment, whichever is earlier. If we look at the provision of 194C, they read something like this. Why I am going to take you through this is, then I can explain each one of these things to you one by one. Any specified person responsible for pay. So first thing is that the payer should be a specified person. What is a specified person? I will tell you in the next slide. But if this person is responsible to pay any sum, now the word here is not income, it says any sum. So the TDS has to be deducted on the gross amount to any resident contractor. If the contractor is a non-resident, this section in any case is not applicable. Section 195 will apply for carrying out any work. So the services which are provided should fall within the definition of work. And to clarify, it has been given that work includes supply of labor for carrying out work. So if a specified person is responsible to pay any sum to a resident contractor and the work has to be done for which this sum is being paid, and in pursuance of a contract between the contractor and the specified person. Now there should be a contract between these two people. Shall, at the time of credit of such sum to the account of the contractor or at the time of payment thereof. This we have already discussed in the last slide. In cash or by issue of cheque or draft or any other mode. So if you make the payment, that can be either by way of cash, by issue of cheque, by draft or any other mode. It doesn't matter which mode is being used. So if you are making the payment through, let's say, Paytm, even that is something which will be covered. Whichever is earlier means if the credit is earlier, you deduct at the time of credit. If payment is earlier, you deduct at the time of payment. Deduct an amount equal to 1% where the payment is made or credit is given to an individual or HUF. We discussed this earlier. 2% where payment is being made or credit is being given to a person other than an individual or HUF. Right? Now let's look at each one of these points independently. So the first thing is, who is a specified person? A specified person can be a company. It can be a local authority engaged in housing accommodation, planning, development or improvement of cities like HUDCO, CIDCO, etc. The payer can be a firm, it could be a corporation or a university which is established by or under a central, state or provincial act. It could be a cooperative society which is registered under the Societies Registration Act 1860. It could even be an individual HUF, association of person or body of individual, but only if they are liable to tax audit under section 44AB during the preceding financial year, which means that if you have to deduct TDS in 2018-19, you need to see whether the payer was liable to tax audit in 17-18 if it falls under any of these categories. A person is liable to tax audit if during the previous year, in case of a business, the turnover or the gross receipts exceed 1 crore. In case of profession, the gross receipts exceeds 50 lakh rupees. Central government or state government, government of a foreign state or a foreign enterprise or any association or body established outside India, a trust or a society. So if any of these people are making the payments, they are the specified person. What was the condition? The condition was that any specified person, which means any of these, should be responsible to make a payment of any sum to a resident contractor, right? But only when the payments are above the threshold limit. It is not that if they pay $100 to someone, they have to withhold tax. The payment should be exceeding the threshold limit. So what is the threshold limit for deduction of tax? The TDS has to be deducted at the applicable rates if a single payment exceeds 30,000, right? So if suppose A makes the payment to B of 40,000, that payment exceeds 30,000 and therefore it is liable to TDS. If the single payment is less than or equal to 30,000. Now, in the same case, let's say the payment which was being made was 25,000. In that case, the single payment is less than or equal to 30,000, right? But the aggregate payment during the year exceeds INR 1 lakh. At the time when this 25,000 was paid, let's say C had to pay the amount to D. C knew that when I have to make the payment to D, the total contract value is 1,20,000, which has to be paid during financial year 2018-19. So if the aggregate payment during the year exceeds 1 lakh, then TDS has to be deducted even if the payment is less than 30,000. So in this case, even though the amount is 25,000, it will still be liable for TDS because the total payment that has to be made is agreed in advance to be more than 1,20,000. So let's look at some examples on the threshold for deduction of TDS. There are three cases which we have, right? In case A, the payment is 20,000, second is 20,000, third is 25,000. And the total payment are how much? 65,000. Now, because the single payment, every single payment is less than 30,000 and the total is also less than 1 lakh, there will be no TDS in either of these three cases. If I look at the second one, the total payment is how much? 1,05,000. The first payment, it is 20,000. Now, in this case, we have assumed that when the contract was entered into, there was no intention to pay an amount exceeding 1 lakh by the person who's receiving the services. So first time when he paid 20,000, there was no TDS under section 194C. Second time when he paid 45,000, because the payment exceeds 30,000, a single payment exceeds 30,000, there has to be deduction of TDS under 194C. When the third payment was made for 40,000, the overall payment was 1,05,000, which is more than 1 lakh. Now obviously this payment is above 30,000, so you have to deduct TDS on 40,000, right? But because the overall payment has exceeded 1 lakh, you need to deduct the TDS on the entire value of 1,05,000 minus what you have already deducted. So at the time of making the payment for this 40,000, TDS will be deducted on 40,000 plus 20,000, right? The third case is the one where each of the individual payment is exceeding 30,000. So TDS has to be deducted on all of them. If you do the total also, it's 1,02,000, right? Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, you can subscribe to our channel to stay updated on more such videos. You can like these videos and also share it with your friends. And if you're looking for material on this particular subject, you can visit us on our website at www.arinjayacademy.com.